Hey guys, good morning. How are you doing today? Fine. So today let us discuss the speed of transverse wave in a stretched string, which is very important formula. Let us discuss the derivation of this. So here I have written speed of transverse wave in a uniform string. Right. So as I have mentioned, uniform string is uniform throughout. Its thickness should be same throughout, um, or I can say area of cross section of the wire is uniform throughout, and also like as the material is same throughout, so its density also remains constant. Fine. So overall I can say that its thickness or area and density of the string remains constant. Okay, now let us discuss about the speed of a transverse wave generated in a stretched string. Let me show you two cases here. By logic you can say, if I consider a thin wire, thin string or thin wire, or you can say thin rope, thin wire, and if I consider thick rope or thick string, right, thick string or thick rope, right. So these two are the cases, let me show you, of same length. Let us say both are of same length, but one is thick, one is thin. And if I try to generate a pulse or wave in the string, and if the wave or pulse moves forward, that means it has velocity. So which string will be moving with more speed? Thinner one. That means velocity of thin string or rope, or I can say thin wire is, velocity of wave produced in thin wire is greater than the velocity of wave produced in a thicker wire. That means velocity depends upon mass here. Right? Here I am considering a massed string or massed rope. I am not considering massless string. Here string has certain mass as well as length. Right? So this thinner string has more velocity when compared to thicker string or thicker rope, you can say. That means velocity depends upon mass, or rather I would say mass per unit length. You have another concept called mass per unit length, which will call it as linear mass density. Let me show you a linear mass density. I will denote with a mu. Mu is called as mass per unit length. Mass per unit length. Mu is nothing but mass per unit length. That means mu is equal to m upon L. For example, if I consider L as length of the string, and if I consider mass of the string as well, for this total length of the string L, total mass is m, then I can say that mass upon length is called as linear mass density. Fine. In the same way, if I consider a small element of length, in this only, if I consider a small element of length dl, whose mass is dm, corresponding mass is dm, then I can say that mu is equal to this small element of mass due to the small element of length L. But overall I can say that mu remains constant whether you take full total mass upon total length or small element of mass dm for the corresponding small element of length dl. Right? So dm by dl, you like this also you can write for what you call this linear mass density. Right. So dm becomes, from this I can write dm is equal to mu into dl. Fine. So let me show you one more thing. So as speed depends upon mass, and as you have studied in first year in Newton's laws, mass is nothing but a measure of inertia. Inertia is nothing but a measure of mass, right? So you can say that what you call is inertial property represents mass. So here we'll discuss two properties. One is inertial property, other one is elastic property that arises due to tension in the string. One is inertial property arises due to mass of the string, and the second one is elastic property arises due to tension produced in the string. Anyways, I'll show you that as well. Let me show you the other aspect of tension. Now let me tie a string between two rigid supports, very taut. The string is very taut, or I can say string is fixed tightly between two rigid supports of length L and also mass M. And also I'll show you another case, the string, same string, which is loosely connected between the rigid supports. This is loosely connected between the two rigid supports. So when it is loosely connected and here tightly connected, I mean the same length, and also mass is also mm considered, right? I mean identical string, I can say, I would rather say identical string, mass and length both are same, but one is connected tight between the two rigid supports and the other one is loosely connected between the two rigid supports. Now if I perform the experiment by plucking or pulling the string at one point of the string in both cases, and if I release the string, then anyways a pulse or wave is produced and will be moving in the forward direction. I'm considering the forward direction case. So wave is moving from one end to the other end of the rigid support, right, in both cases. But where do you find more speed? In which case you will find more speed? Just by logic you can say that the string which is connected or fixed tightly between two rigid supports has more velocity because its tension is more. So I can say that velocity depends upon tension, or I would rather say that velocity is directly proportional to tension. And in the previous case we have discussed about mass. Thinner string has more velocity, whereas thicker string has less velocity. That means velocity is inversely proportional to mass. By logic you can say, right? But mathematically we'll prove a derivation for velocity of transverse wave in a stretched string, and that velocity is given as v is equal to root over t upon mu. V is equal to root over t upon mu. Just now we have discussed t is nothing but tension in the string. Mu is nothing but linear mass density, or mass upon unit length, or mass per unit length. So here let me write T, which is tension produced in the string. Mu is called as linear mass density, or I can say mass per unit length. Now let me show you the same pulse here. At one point I have plucked the string or pulled the string to a maximum extent, right? So let me show you a pulse like this. But when I try to release this string, definitely this pulse will, I mean the particle which is on the top of the string, that is which has reached maximum displacement, tries to move towards mean position. So this position is mean position. All the particles which are initially at rest are at mean position. So because of restoring force, some restoring force is developed in the string. Because of restoring force, the pulse moves towards the mean position, and it will not stop there itself because it gains some momentum, because the string has certain mass and also it has certain velocity now. So it gains some momentum. Because of gaining momentum, this pulse will be coming downwards. So this is how the pulse gets generated up and down, right? But I am showing you only one case. In this case, let me show you. So this is the formula we are going to derive now. V is equal to root over T upon mu, right? So I have shown you the formula as well. I have written the formula as well for mu. Mu is equal to what? Mu is equal to mass per unit length. Fine. So let me consider. Just now in the diagram I have shown you a small pulse. If I show the same pulse by means of a microscope, the diagram looks like this. Pulse, I am considering this as a pulse, this as a pulse. I am considering a small element of length. This also has been got enlarged because of right. Okay, let me show you small element like this. Small element, this portion I am considering as small element. I am showing you the thick portion, right? So this is nothing but dl. dl is nothing but a small element of length L in the pulse, right? So now let me consider this as mean position. From the mean position, this is the displacement, maximum displacement of that particle which I am showing you on the small element of length dl. Now here if you look at this from the center, if I draw two lines like this from the two extreme ends of the length, extreme ends of the lens, and let me consider each angle as theta. That is, theta is the angle subtended by one end of the element, and the other end of the element also subtends an angle theta with respect to the vertical line that I have drawn, right? So total angle would be, what would be the total angle? Total angle would be 2 theta. So 2 theta is the total angle, and as this is arc and this pulse I have considered as a semicircle, then this becomes a center of the semicircle. Let me represent this point as O, and let me denote this AB as small element of length, and AO becomes what? What is this AO? AO is nothing but radius. OB is also equal to, or BO is also equal to radius. Now from this figure you can find out, as you know the formula for angle in mathematics, math generally you are going to use every time, right? So angle is equal to arc length by radius, or you can say angle is equal to length of arc upon radius. So angle, I am writing the formula, angle is equal to length of arc upon radius. Angle is equal to length of arc upon radius. Now what is length of arc? We have chosen dl, and radius is r. So what is the angle subtended at this center? Total angle between the ends of the element. So 2 theta. So I can write 2 theta is equal to dl upon r. Let me take this as equation 1. Fine. Now okay, let me show you, as this is a string, at the ends of the element tension will be acting, because as I said earlier, in the string a tension is produced, tension is developed across the ends. Let me show you that tension will be tangential, that is touching at one point of the curve. This is T, and at the other end also let me draw a tension T, right, tension T. So now this tension T can be resolved into two rectangular components. One is perpendicular or transverse, I can say like this, or which acts towards the center, and the other one is parallel to the element. I mean this, if I consider this as element, parallel to the element or parallel to the pulse, I can say. So here if I resolve this, now what is this angle? This angle is theta. Then what would be this angle? Because these two lines are parallel, this acts like a transversal. So if this is theta, this angle is also theta. And what about this angle now? This angle will be 90 minus theta, right? I'm just applying geometry, nothing else. So when it is 90 minus theta, the other angle I can write this one as theta, because these two components are perpendicular to each other, so total angle will be 90 degrees. Fine, so this is theta. In the same way here also the same situation arises. If I resolve this tension T, which can be resolved into two components, one will be towards the center, that is perpendicular component, or I would rather say it is a transverse component. So another component is parallel to the element. So now if I resolve this T into two components, what would be this component and what would be this component? This theta, to this theta, this becomes what? This becomes base, or I can say adjacent side. If I draw a line like this, if I complete, see, if I complete this, now look at this, these two are parallel, right? So if I resolve this, this is tension, this line is tension, and to this theta, this one is opposite side, this one would become adjacent side. As you know, in adjacent side which formula is used? Cos theta. So as this is T, so here you will get the component of tension as T cos theta, and this component will be T sin theta. As this component is T sin theta, this component also becomes T sin theta, as both are parallel to each other. So let me write here T sin theta. In the same way, here also if I resolve the tension across the other end of the element of small element dl, this can be resolved into two components. This is also T sin theta, because this angle is also theta, the other angle becomes 90 minus theta, and then this angle becomes theta again, right? So again if I show you, if I resolve this tension T into two rectangular components, one will be T sin theta acting towards center, and the other will be T cos theta. Fine. So T cos theta. Now if you, okay, let me just erase this, let me, as what is very small. So here let me show you 2 theta is equal to dl upon r. Let me take this as equation 1. Now if you look at this figure carefully, T cos theta, these two T cos thetas are acting in the opposite direction. So these two T cos thetas get cancelled. That means they have equal force or equal tension in magnitude but opposite in direction. So these x components of tension get cancelled, whereas if you look at the y components of tension which are acting vertically, I mean downwards towards the center of the pulse or center of the wave, you can say. So what is the net tension? Total tension will be 2T sin theta, right? So 2T sin theta. Let me write total okay. So Tx, that is tension along x component is equal to T cos theta gets cancelled due to these two t cos thetas are equal in magnitude but opposite in direction, whereas t sin thetas both are acting downwards, so total downward or perpendicular component of tensions will be 2t sin theta. Let me take that as force, total force in the downward direction, that is nothing but 2t sin theta. Fine. So as this element is very small, dl, so theta is also very small, right? But we are going to find out the speed, so I should not consider it as 0, but theta is very small, in the sense theta is tending to 0 but not 0. Right, so if theta is very small in math, what you write is sin theta is approximately equal to theta, right? If theta is very small, if theta is very small, then I can write sin theta is approximately equal to theta. Is this visible, man? Okay, so therefore I can write total force is equal to 2t into theta. 2t into theta. Can I write like this? T into 2 theta. T into 2 theta. Let me take this as equation 2. I'll take this as equation 2. T into 2 theta. But from equation 1, what we got for 2 theta as? 2 theta is equal to dl upon r. So let me substitute equation 1 in equation 2. What we get is, let me erase this portion. What I get is, so f, okay, substituting equation 1 in equation 2, we get t into 2 theta is nothing but t into, this is F total, that is total force acting towards the center, right, center of the pulse. So t into 2 theta, how much we got? Dl upon r. Okay, let me take this as equation 3. And this total force, as you know very well, this total force is balanced, that is this total force is provided by, that is total downward force 2t sin theta is provided by the centripetal force. So I can equate this total force with the centripetal force. So let me show here. So what you will get is, so as you know, centripetal force is equal to mv square upon r. This is the formula for centripetal force. But here I am considering only small element of length dl. For this small element of length dl, what should be the mass? Only dm. So dm is the small element of mass. So here I can write, so this m is replaced by, so fcp is equal to dm into v square upon r. Let me take this as equation 4. Right, as this total force, that is 2t sin theta, is provided by the necessary centripetal force, which is equal to dm into v square by r. So I will equate these two. Let's see what we will get. And here one more thing that is to be I would like to tell you, which is very important. Here I am considering the velocity, I am considering the speed of wave with respect to the frame of wave, not with respect to the observer at rest, with respect to the frame of wave. That we'll discuss later on, right, if time permits. So fcp is equal to dm into v square by r. Then now if I equate these two, what will get? Equation 3 is equal to equation 4, which implies t into dl upon r is equal to dm into v square by r. right? So can I cancel anything? Okay, r gets cancelled. Now from this, v square is equal, oh it is not visible, okay, let me write here. So from here I can write v square is equal to, now if I write t into did I correct? Let me just hold on. So here v square is equal to what you can write? T into dl upon dm. Can I write like this? T into dl upon dm. But at the very first session, I mean our very first topic, we have discussed about linear mass density, remember, of this session only. Linear mass density, mu is equal to what? For small element of length dl, if dm is mass, dm upon dl gives what? Linear mass density. So here you have dl upon dm. So let me show you again. Here let me show you, mu is equal to dm upon dl. Now what you write here, dl upon dm becomes what? 1 upon mu, 1 by mu. So this becomes, I can write as t by mu, t by mu, t by mu. So v square is equal to t by mu. So finally, let me erase this part again. Okay, equation 1 I am erasing. Okay, here what you will get is, finally, now here I am writing the same step here again. So v square is equal to t upon mu. From this I will get v is equal to square root of t upon mu. So this is the formula for speed of transverse wave in a stretched string. Fine. So here let me explain again, like in the sense, this is why we are calling this as transverse wave, because I plucked the string in the upward direction and released, so that pulse is moving in the horizontal direction, whereas the particle is vibrating about its mean position. The direction of particle is in the vertical direction, either upwards or downwards, but it is in the vertical direction, and the wave is advancing in the horizontal direction. As both are perpendicular to each other, then that wave is called as transverse wave. So this is the speed of transverse wave. This is the story of speed of transverse wave in a stretched string. So v is equal to root over t upon mu. Let me show you one more thing here. So once you complete this, so now let me write mu as mass per unit length, right? So here I got v is equal to root over t upon mu. I will write this one as root over t. Tension is nothing but force, right? Force produced, pulling force, right? T upon mass per unit length. Now I am considering total mass per total length. So I can write this one as root of t into L upon m. Now if I consider volume of the wire as V, which is nothing but area into length, right? Let me erase this part, area into length. So now I can write, as you know, the formula for volume. Volume is equal to area into length. Here I have considered a wire. In the wire is nothing but in the form of a cylinder. So volume of cylinder is nothing but pi r square L, right? So in place of area I can write pi r square into L, or pi r square L, which is volume. So mass in I mean, you have the formula for density. Density is equal to mass upon volume. So mass becomes volume into density. So I can write here this one as root of T into L by volume into density, since mass is equal to volume into density, right? So mass is equal to volume into density. Now what I will do is I will substitute the value of V pi as pi r square L here, where rho is density of the wire or material. So let me erase this part. If I substitute, what I will get, this is the formula for volume, and this is the formula for velocity. I am writing velocity. I am just expressing velocity in terms of density. Now if I write further, so what happens to this V? So V is equal to root over T into L by volume is nothing but pi r square L into rho. If you simplify further, what you will get is, if you simplify further, r square is under root, so I can take out from the root. So 1 by r, I can write 1 by r into root over T upon pi L rho, right? P is equal to 1 by r into root over T by pi L rho. In terms of diameter, as you know very well, radius can be written as diameter by 2, or diameter is nothing but twice the radius, so radius becomes twice the diameter, which I can also express this one as 1 by d by 2. See, d is equal to 2r, which implies r is equal to what? D by 2. When r is equal to d by 2, what happens to 1 by r? 1 by r is nothing but 2 by d. So in terms of diameter, I can also write this one as 2 by d into root over T by pi L rho. This is velocity. I did it wrong here. Volume is nothing but pi r square L. Oh, sorry. I'm very sorry. So here length gets cancelled, right? So length gets cancelled. So length will not be there. So you will get a T by pi rho. T by is pi rho. I'm sorry. So here you will get this one as T by pi rho. Length gets cancelled here. So V is equal to 1 by r into root over T by pi rho, or V is equal to, in terms of diameter, 2 by d into root over pi. So this is the formula for velocity, and I will show you one more. You can also write this one as, let me show you like this, what you call, V is equal to T by mu, right? Where is it? Yeah. V is equal to T upon mu. Let me just hold on. Yeah. So what do you get? There is this portion. Fine. So till now, make a copy of this. Okay. So let me write the other one as well, like what you call, V is equal to root over T upon mu. This is the general formula, for speed of transverse wave. Now what I will write is, if I express this same as what you call, root over T by mass per unit length, I have written this one as root over T into L by mass. Fine. Now if I write this mass as volume into density, if I express the same formula in terms of area, what I'll get? So V is equal to root over, is this visible? Okay, root over T into L by mass is nothing but volume into density. Volume is nothing but, I can write as area into length. Let me write as area. So this becomes root over T into L by volume is nothing but area into length into rho. So L gets cancelled. From this I will get root over T by A into rho. Okay, is this visible? let me just bend to a certain extent. So V is equal to root over T by A rho, right? So now I will take this A to the numerator. Now I can write this same expression as, I can write this same expression as V is equal to, now V is equal to root over T by A by rho. Now this is nothing but, tension is nothing but force. Force upon area is what? You can say pressure, or you can say what you call stress. So I can write this one as root over stress by rho is nothing but a density. So velocity is equal to square root of stress upon density, right? So this is the story of velocity of transverse wave in a stretched string. So let us do a few problems later in the next session.